Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to another 911 Mythbusters. This episode, we're going to be talking about texting 911 and if you can or not. So, this one, I'm going to start off by saying it's going to be plausible because the biggest hindrance to this is if your agency or the area you're located actually has it rolled out to their PSAP system or not, which the PSAP we've gone over before, it's the primary public, no, it's the public safety answering point, which is the primary answering point for your area, whether that's the county office or the city office. Someone in that area will be handling the intake of all the 911 calls for that area. So for my agency, it is us. We do take all of the 911 calls for that county. Now, we have it in our system. There's very few that aren't going to have it nowadays because it is become such a popular thing. And it's helpful for a lot of reasons, mainly because if you're in a situation where you can't talk directly to 911 or you're afraid of someone hearing you talk to 911, you do have the option to text and put out accurate descriptions. Another hindrance to that is if you happen to have to text 911, you need to stay on top of answering their questions and trying to get accurate descriptions because, even just being over the phone is a breakdown in communication. When you go to just text, it can also break down communication even further. So, as I always say, be sure to dial up those details and let them know everything that's going on. So, the technology has come a long way. Back in the day, I'm sure everybody at this point's heard about the pizza story or the domestic violence ordering pizza. The thing with that one is we don't have a secret code knowing, oh, they're ordering pizza, they're in a violent situation. No. The reason that one kicked off so well is that the dispatcher was extremely on top of it, and whenever they kept asking for pizza, even though they informed them multiple times it was an emergency line, that's when it clued them in that, hey, something is different here. So, they thought on the fly and, hey, if this is a no, say no mushrooms. If this is a yes, say yes mushrooms. So, and we're kind of away from that now that we have the capability to text. It doesn't happen as often. So if you're in an area that has text and it's in a situation where you can't talk, that is certainly a very viable option. The technology even goes further than that, though. With the rapid SOS system I've talked about before, we actually have the capability to send people links to where they can send us pictures. They can open up their phone's location even more accurately to where we can send basically a permission for their phone to allow them for us to get the location, so we can get even more accurate location. We can send them a link, like I said, for pictures. We can send them a link to live stream what's going on. At the moment, it's not very reliable, especially with cell signal or the availability of internet. If it's not that great, then there is some drawbacks to that. But overall, yes, you can absolutely text to 911, and it is a very helpful feature. I do caution you against, however, and we get this all the time. If you are driving on a main interstate and you want to report a reckless vehicle, please just call in and use whatever hands free you can. Don't sit there and text 911 about a reckless vehicle. Number one, that's just straight up dangerous. Number two, the texts are also generally slower. So if you're not in a fixed location and we're trying to get quick things like descriptions of the vehicle, or if it's pulled off anywhere, those text messages can be delayed by 30 seconds or so. And when you're dealing with a moving vehicle, particularly on a main interstate highway where you're driving, in Texas, you'd be driving 75, that can really hinder the ability of the officers to be able to locate that vehicle or that emergency that's going on. So if you're driving, please be sure to always call, unless you're in a situation where maybe you're in the passenger seat or you're in the back and the person that's in the vehicle with you, you don't want them to know you're calling 911. So again, that's going to be plausible based upon the area. But nowadays, most areas do have that. If you have any questions on if your area has that, I'm sure if you call up to your local agency, the quick question of, hey, does your PSAP have text to 911 service? They won't mind answering that question. They may ask you if you have an emergency right then to see if you need any help right at that moment. Also, please, when you call to ask that question, don't dial 911. Look up your local agency and dial them directly to their office phones. That way they know that it's not an emergency. No one's being harmed at that moment, and they can answer the 911 calls they need to and get to you when they can, which is, again, an unfortunate reality of 911 service. We do have to prioritize our calls. So if you ever need to call 911, don't call 911 for loud music. You call the main line, okay? And if somebody's being hurt, please call 911. I hope these series have been at least informative to you, if not entertaining and just fun. That's what I'm looking to do, is just create something that's fun, entertaining, and informative. So if you like what I'm doing, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Leave a comment on what other things you want to know about 911, whether it's a myth or not a myth, or maybe you've seen it on a TV show or in a movie. Just reach out, leave a comment, and I'll let you know if it's true or not. But that'll be it for this episode of 911 Mythbusters. I'll see you on the next one. And if you ever have to dial 911 in between here and there, remember to dial up those details.